Right. Here we are, 1 Samuel chapter 20. We are moving through, little by little, through 1 Samuel. We will get there. We'll get to the end. But it's, how many chapters are in 1 Samuel? I don't remember off the top of my head. 30. So we are 2/3 of the way done today. So we're on our way. We'll get there. It'll probably be the end of the year, beginning of the next year. Christmas break and all that stuff in there. So anyway, we're marching our way through. Man, you think about all the stuff that we've covered. We talked about Samuel and his mom dedicating him. We talked about how the previous priest had been taking advantage of the priesthood, and Samuel rose up in it, and God called him specifically out to become the next priest and prophet for the nation of Israel. And we see them crying out for a king, and they select Saul, and then it's like, oh yeah, they're on a high note. Oh, Saul, he's coming to defend us, yeah. And then the next thing you know, Saul doesn't even fight a battle, and then goes up onto a hill and creates an image of himself to go celebrate. What are you even celebrating here, man? You didn't even do it. You didn't even fight. So a whole bunch of stuff's gone on. We got David. He's already anointed, but he's serving the current king, right? But he's already anointed, and he's serving the current king, and yet the current king wants to kill him. David's had multiple opportunities to get away from him. Things are about to start escalating even more here in chapter 20. So let's dive in. Let's see what we got going here. All right. Verse 1. David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came and said before Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my offense? And what is my sin before your father that he seeks my life?" Now, if you'll remember, I'll give you a reminder up here. bradflack.com/1-Samuel will get you to this video. But if you're watching this video, you already found this on YouTube or on the website, either way. But if you'll remember, we talked about Ramah is the hill here, and there's a little town, and they worship up here. And then on the side over here is this little seminary. We talked about that, Naioth. So David fled from Naioth, so he gets away from Saul, and he goes back down to where the king's palace is, and he finds his good friend Jonathan. And I remember David and Jonathan, they're buddies, shake and bake. The whole thing. So they're ready to rock and roll. They're best buds. So he goes in there and says, "Dude, what's your problem with your dad? What did I do that made him so upset? Did I eat one of his favorite candies and I didn't know it? Or did I shear the wrong sheep? I mean, your dad didn't even have sheep. I don't understand. What did I do?" Like he's trying to wrap his mind around, what did I do? So verse 2, and Jonathan said to David, No, far from it. You won't die. Look, my dad does nothing, either great or small, that he does not reveal to me. Dad tells me everything. So if he was trying to kill you, he would have told me that, man. You're fine. Like I think you're thinking too much into it. Why would my father hide this thing from me? That's not true. It's not so.
Okay, if I wanted to kill my son's friend, I would tell him.
Right. I mean, let's think about the actual dynamics. Was Jonathan present here? No. Was Jonathan present in the throne room where he tried to throw and stab him against the wall? He's not listed, so he's probably not there. So all these things are going on.
Yeah, if you tell your son, "Hey, I'm going to kill your friend," he's going to go tell his friend. And
right. That's right. Yeah, so Saul's not going to tell him that. Surely he's not going to tell him that. So, verse 3, David vowed again and said, "Your father certainly knows that I have found favor in your sight." And he says, "Do not let Jonathan know this, lest he be distressed." That's exactly what we just said. It's like, your dad knows that we're friends. And if I tell my son, who's really good friends with you, that I'm trying to kill your friend, my son's going to get real upset. So, no, I'm not going to tell him that. That's what David responds back to Jonathan. He says, yeah, of course he's not going to tell you. Why would he tell you that he's going to do this, right? However, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me and death. So he's saying, this dude's chasing me down. He ran all the way to Ramah, this hill. He went to the seminary, and he sent 3 people there first, and then he came himself. He's seeking to kill me. I'm telling you, by God, he's trying to kill me. Verse 4, Jonathan responds back to David, whatever you say, I'll do it for you. That's code for, dude, I got your back. If you feel that way, I'll be there with you. It's my dad, so it's kind of a weird thing, but I trust you, and I feel like, okay, if that's what, I'm with you, okay? I got your back. So verse 5, David then says to Jonathan, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king to eat. So apparently in ancient Israel, they celebrated the new moon. It was a little like a one-day festival, but apparently the king, for a number of possible reasons, decided it was going to be multiple days for the new moon, even though the new moon was one day. Now, if you'll remember, it's not so weird for them to consider the new moon. You go back to our Exodus study and you look, it says, hey, on the 14th day after the new moon of this month, you're going to go make their bread and you're going to stand up and you're going to leave the Exodus, you're going to leave and the angel of death's going to come. Like there's all these things that they talk about in relation to the moon. So that's not the weird part. The weird part is the ancient texts that we have showing the new moon celebration, the new moon party. This is another once a month reason to have a little party and have a get together. And they did sacrifices and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of like a holy day or whatever. It's like, hey, it's a new month. Let's dedicate it to God. But it was only one time. And we see in this passage, it's going to be multiple days. So that tells you that the king was using this as a reason to throw it back and have a party, right? All right. So Jonathan said to David, whatever you say, I'll do it for you. And David says, well, tomorrow's the new moon, and I'd be in trouble if I didn't sit with the king to eat, because I'm in his court. I play the little harp thing, the lyre, right? So if I'm not there, potentially we got problems. So let me go that I may hide myself in the field until the evening of the 3rd day. So the evening of the 3rd day from now. So today, tomorrow, the next day, the 3rd day. So the day after tomorrow. Let me go hide myself in the field. Okay, here's the plan. You said, you already said you're going to do whatever I asked of you. You already told me that. You promised. Here's the plan. So Jonathan's like, all right, David, what's the plan? Lay it on me. So he says, I'm going to go hide in the field. And if your father misses me at all, then say, well, David asked for leave from me that he might run back to Bethlehem, his city, for there's a yearly sacrifice there for all the family. And if he says, good, then it will be well for your servant. It'll be well for me. But if he gets angry, know that evil is determined by him. This guy's out for evil. Then I'm not there. Therefore, deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. But if there is any guilt in me, kill me yourself, for why should you bring me to your father? So he's saying, I'm going to go hide in a field. I'm going to miss the meal. I'm going to miss the party. If he says, where's David? It's like, oh, well, he had to go do something with his family. I let him go. Like, oh, okay, cool. Then I'll come let you know that it's safe. You're good to go. But if he's, and he either doesn't recognize that David's gone at all, or he's like, where's David? Well, I told him he could leave. Why did you do that? Then I'll say it's evil. I'll say he's up to no good. Now, there is one more thing he adds in here. If you go back down here to verse 8, he says, listen, just be real with me, okay? Deal with me in real life here. Are you sure there's not something I've done that I've sinned against your dad? Maybe there's something. Maybe I used the wrong word. And when I said sheep and I should have said goat, or Like, is there something that I've done to make him angry that he wants to kill me? And listen, if you can think of it, then you just go ahead and kill me. That way I don't have to worry about being chased around and have this anxiety in my life. You just do me a favor and you just take me out. So Jonathan, verse 9, says, far, far be it from you. For I indeed knew that my father had determined evil against you. Would I not tell it to you? Like, well, no. You don't have any sin, and we're buds. If my dad said that he was going to have evil for you, I would let you know. I would totally let you know. So, David, verse 10, David said back to Jonathan, so we're seeing this dialogue back and forth, right? David says to Jonathan now, who will tell me, or what if your father answers you roughly? So he was like, okay, great. So time out. So here's the plan. I'm going to go in the field. I'm going to hide. If I'm missing and your dad says, where am I? And you tell him that story that I'm going over here to do stuff with the family. And he says, oh, okay, cool. Good job, son. You told him to go do the right thing. Or if he reacts in a negative way, like, who's going to alert me? Like, we don't have cell phones. You can't just say, you can't send me a text message, run or anything. How are we going to communicate? Yeah. How are we going to communicate this? How are we going to communicate this situation? And so he's trying to figure out how that's going to happen. That's what he's asking in verse 11. And I'm in verse 10. And so 11, Jonathan says back to David, okay, come on, let's go out to the field. And so the two of them went out there. So they're looking around now. They're trying to figure out the plan. You see what's happening? Like, it's actually, they talked about now, they're, okay, we're in the field. Okay, I'll stand here. And look, there's some rocks over there. You can hide behind those rocks over there, right? So you'll hide behind those rocks. And then Dad and I will be probably here. Like, they're planning out this whole thing, okay? Verse 12, then Jonathan said to David, the Lord God of Israel is witness. When I have sounded out my father about this time tomorrow, or by the day after that, and if he is favorable towards David, then will I not send and reveal it to you? He's like, listen, I'm gonna work my magic. Okay, I'm gonna make this happen. And I'll get word to you. One way or another, I'll get word to you in your hiding spot, okay? Verse 13, may the Lord do so to Jonathan much more. If it pleases my father to do you evil, then I will reveal it to you and send you away that you may go in peace. And may the Lord be with you as he has been with my father. And if I live, not only will you show me the kindness of the Lord, that I shall not die, but you will not cut off your faithfulness from my house forever, even when the Lord has cut off each one of the enemies of David from the face of the earth. So Jonathan is starting to, he says, okay, we're best buds. And you told me already that you're anointed, you're the next king coming up here. And my dad, we're making this whole plan, so I have no reason to not believe you. My dad's trying to kill you. And I know the story. Remember, Saul has killed his thousands, but David's killed his tens of thousands. And who killed the giant Goliath? It was David. So Jonathan is like, okay, wait a minute here. If my dad's trying to attack David, what's the most likely outcome? So, that being said, David, we're best buds. I love you. Remember me. And don't destroy my family lineage. Let me survive. Even though my dad may be out of the picture for his evilness, let me continue so that my family won't be cut off from history as all the other people that you fought against, they're just wiped out. So I don't want to be against you. I'm for you. Remember, we're buddies. So don't forget me. So that's what he's saying here in verse 14 and 15. So verse 16. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, may the Lord require it at the hand of the enemies of David. Jonathan made David swear again because he loved him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. So he said, we're in covenant now. Yeah, right. What does covenant mean, Rick? What's a contract? Do you know what a contract is? Mm-hmm. What's a contract?
Agreement.
An agreement. If you do this,
Then I'll do this.
then I'll do this.
It's like quid pro quo.
Yeah, quid pro quo. A covenant says, I'm going to do this regardless of what you do over here. I will keep this end of the bargain regardless of what happens. I'd like for you to do these things, but if you don't, I will still do this thing here. That's a covenant. That's the difference between contract and covenant. So they've made this covenant here. And he says, regardless of what happens between me and my dad, regardless of what happens between you and my dad, and regardless of what happens between me and you, you're going to protect my family, my lineage, my descendants coming down through here. So they both, I think here in verse 17, they both hugged and they patted each other. Man, I love you, buddy. Yes. Yes, we're covenanted together. Yeah, man, we're best friends. We're totally going to, yeah, we're good. We're good. Go David and Jonathan, right? It's kind of the whole thing. So then we get into verse 18. It's like, okay, no. Back to business. What were we talking about again? Oh, yes. Tomorrow's the new moon, and you will be missed because your seat will be empty. When you've stayed 3 days, or on the third day, as a lot of times it's translated, on the third day, which you saw here earlier, right? The third day, does that ring a bell to anybody? On the third day? So, that's right. So a lot of people will read the translation and say, well, if he was in the ground for 3 days, then how did he rise on Sunday? Because if he was in the ground on Friday, then that math didn't work. But if it was on the third day, because if he was put in Friday morning, that's day 1. Saturday is day 2. Sunday is day 3. On the third day, he rose from the grave. That's on the third day. So if you read the translation wrong, or you do the translation wrong.
2 days after Friday.
Do you count Friday as a day when you're on Friday?
I guess, yeah.
If you're like, hey, Harvey, I'm going to work today. What are we doing today? Today's Friday. What are we doing? We're going to go and do this tile work. And then tomorrow, you're going to come back and finish the tile work. Okay, well, that's day 1 and day 2 on the job, right? And then when you're going to have a day off, that'll be day Sunday. That's the third day of that set of days, right? The third day. So there's a difference. If you translate it, I'm not going to say wrong or incorrectly, but if you translate it where you mean 3 full days, then that would be Friday 8 a.m. to Saturday 8 a.m. is 1 day, and Saturday to Sunday is another day, and Sunday to Monday is a third day. Now everything gets skewed. But if you translate it as on the third day, does that make sense? All right, so here it says, when you have stayed 3 days, and the actual translation, if I remember correctly, when I looked it up, it said up to the third day. Because remember up here, he says, if you'll go, where does it say here?
They surely go down.
He says, I'll be with you in a day or 2, or the third day at the last, or something like that. Where does it go? Okay, here we go. David said to Jonathan, tomorrow's the new moon, and I should not fall. Let me go to until the evening of the third day, if your father misses me at all. So he's planning on being out to the third day. So Jonathan, when he responded, though, he said, tomorrow. Okay, here we go in verse 12. He goes, when I have sounded out my father, when I've heard my father's intentions about this time tomorrow, or by the third day. So today, tomorrow, or by the third day. Does that make sense? Today, tomorrow, or by the third day. And I don't know what it is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It didn't tell us here, but when you think about that in correlation to Christ and his death and resurrection, okay? So when you have stayed up to the third day, you will surely go down and come to the place where you hid yourself this day at the rocks, right? This happened, and wait there beside the stone Ezel. Apparently they named the stone Ezel. I guess like Enchanted Rock, it's got a name. This one's got a name.
Water didn't come out of it.
Right. And I will shoot 3 arrows to its side as though I shot at a target. Now, time out. This seems kind of like a random, like, okay, now we're talking archery. What's happening here? Now, go back in time. Go back to like chapter 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. And if you remember, Saul was fighting the Philistines, and they were in a stalemate. And Jonathan and his company of soldiers, remember, they snuck across the valley and up the hill, and they went into the garrison of the Philistines. And they won. And that's when Saul got onto his son, not because of, well, you almost died. I can't believe you did that. But you didn't obey my orders. You went and did something, and I didn't tell you to do that. Even though we ended up winning the whole battle because of it, he still jumped on his son's case. Okay? So Jonathan, he's a pretty good soldier himself. And he's apparently going to be pretty good at a weaponry. We're going to guess he's practicing archery. Okay? So it doesn't seem as out of place when you remember what we talked about earlier in 1 Samuel. So he says, and I will shoot 3 arrows to its side. So if that trash can right there is the rock, I'm going to shoot them to the side as if I'm shooting at a target. Then I will send a boy saying, go find the arrows. Apparently they didn't have bird dogs back then, so they got a little boy out there. If I expressly say to the boy, see, the arrows are on this side, take them, then come, for it will be safe for you, as the Lord lives. It's nothing of concern. Everything we've worried about, no big deal. But if I say to the young man, see, the arrows are beyond you, go, for the Lord has sent you away. As for the matter upon which you and I have spoken here, the Lord is between you and me forever. He's going to make our paths separate at that point. And you need to skedaddle. So David hid himself in the fields, and when the new moon appeared, the king sat down over his food to eat. Now the king sat on his seat, as at other times, even on a seat by the wall. You know what this is referring to? If you've had a couple of strong drinks, what happens? You get drunk.
Yeah.
You ever feel flush?
Yeah.
Feel like warm? Get hot? Okay. Not that any of you have ever drank alcohol.
I've been drunk in a long time. I'm sober almost 6 years now.
But even me, like I'll sip on a whiskey for 3 hours around the campfire, and it starts warming my body up, right? So the same thing. He's sitting by the wall, because if I'm inside the building, I'm inside this enclosed space. If I'm sitting on the edge where the wall is, get the air blowing, I'm relaxing, okay? So that means that the king, what does that indicate? The king's just having a good time. Not concerned about David.
As the king should.
As the king should.
If you're the king.
Yeah. So now the king sat on his seat, as at other times, even on a seat by the wall. Then Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side. Abner's one of the generals, but David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul did not say anything for that day, for he thought, something's happened. He's not clean. Surely he's not clean. What he's saying here is, David got the runs.
Yeah.
He's got the runs. He's throwing up. He got the stomach bug, whatever. He's unclean, so he has to be away from everybody for the next week. So, whatever. Something. I mean, David's always here. I'm not worried about him, and I don't have bad thoughts apparently about David.
So according to David's theory, that he doesn't have evil.
He's just saying, "Oh yeah, poor guy's probably sick."
He's not.
Not where is that son of a?
Where's that guy?
Yeah, he's probably sick. Poor guy. Surely he's not doing well, because otherwise he'd be here. David knows how to have fun at a party. I've seen him, Right. So, verse 27, and it happened on the following day, which was the second day of the month, that David's place remained empty. Now remember, the king is extending this party. It's normally a one-day thing. Now we're into the second day of the party. That David's place remained empty. So Saul said to Jonathan his son, why is the son of Jesse not come to eat food either yesterday or today? Where is that boy? Is he sick? Is he not feeling good? What's going on with him? And Jonathan answered Saul, his dad, David earnestly asked leave from me to go to Bethlehem. And he said, please let me go, for our family has a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has commanded me to come. Now, if I have found favor in your sight, please let me leave and see my brothers. This is why he's not come to the king's table. So he told the story like he had rehearsed. Verse 30, then Saul was angry with Jonathan. And he said to him, "You son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know what you are choosing the son of that you are choosing the son of Jesse to your own shame and the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send a man, now send and bring him to me, for he is a dead man." I think we know our answer now.
Yeah.
And
Day one he passed the test, right?
day one he passed the test. But remember, Jonathan said up to the third day.
Yeah.
David, no big deal. Day one, day two, not so good. Not a good response. And as a matter of fact, Daddy now says that Jonathan is a traitor against him.
Said some poor things about his mother or something.
Yeah. Son of a motherless goat and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. This is biblical beeping right here. Yeah. Son, to the shame of your mother's nakedness. I mean, he just really went after her. I mean, no, the king's got multiple wives, so in his mind, well, whatever. All right. So, 32, verse 32. Jonathan answered Saul, his father, and said to him, "Why should he be killed? What has he done?" And I see this as sort of, you see Saul on this side, "Hey, son of a motherless goat, blah, 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 blah," right? And then on this side, you see Jonathan going, I see David. David was right. I was second guessing him, but I should have trusted him. Dad, what has he done that you're trying to kill him? What's the deal? And Jonathan arose from the table. So Saul, verse 33, I forgot, this is almost missed a very important item here. In verse 33, so Saul cast a spear at him to strike him. How dare you ask me a question, son of a motherless goat? I'm going to stab you with a spear just like I tried to do David multiple times now. So if this was your dad trying to do this to you, no matter what kind of relationship you have with your dad, pretty much done, right? You're pretty much done.
Your dad shows you lethal intention, then. I'm not saying you should kill him first, but like you're no longer.
At least
you're no longer on the.
But
father-son level. You're
correct.
He wants to murder.
Yeah. Now you're on his hit list, but that's a worst case scenario. Best case scenario. Best case scenario. I'm not going to be with this guy, and I'm done. I'm out. Going a different direction in my life, right? So. Therefore, Jonathan knew that his father was determined to kill David. So verse 34, Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and did not eat food on the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David because his father had dishonored him. So he stormed off from the table, from the party, didn't eat anything. Verse 35, in the morning, what day is this?
Third day.
Okay. In the morning, Jonathan went out to the field at the time appointed by David, and a little boy was with them. And he said to his boy, "Run, find the arrows which I shoot." It's like, play catch with arrows. It's kind of like, remember the lawn darts from the 80s? Like, who decided this was a good idea? But, like, here, go fetch these arrows, kid. I just think it's funny. And he said to his boy, "Run, find the arrows which I shoot." And he ran, and he shot the arrow over him. And when the boy came to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan called out to the boy and said, "Is not the arrow beyond you? Is it not past where you are? Keep going." And then Jonathan cried after the boy, "Hurry quickly. Do not stay." And Jonathan's boy gathered up the arrow and came to his master. But the boy did not know anything. Only Jonathan and David knew what that code meant, knew the matter. Verse 40, Jonathan gave his weapons to his boy and said to him, "Go, carry them into the city." And the boy had gone. David arose from the south side of the stone and fell on his face to the ground and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another and wept together, but David wept even more. He knew his time had come. He had to leave. And Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, since the 2 of us swore in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord will be between me and between you and between my descendants and your descendants forever.' So he arose and departed, but Jonathan went into the city." So their friendship at least as we know it, has come to a bitter end. Let me see what my notes here. There was a couple of items I wanted to say here.
Well, you said bitter end, but they're not like mad at each other, right?
No, but they can't stay together. I mean, because if they stay together, then both of them end up getting killed. So I talked about this. David is concerned that he is guilty of an unknown sin, right? He keeps asking over and over, are you sure I didn't do something here? He keeps asking over and over. So that's important. That tells you David is seeking for reconciliation. David's not like, well, fine. Whatever it is that I did, hope he gets over it.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it is that I did to offend him, that's on him. That ain't on me. No, David's heart is tender. And he's like, I don't know what I did to that guy, but I'll make it right. I'll apologize. I'll hug him, shake his hand, say I'm sorry.
This whole time he's been working for the Lord, not for him.
Correct.
He doesn't know anything that he would have done.
That's right. But he's willing to admit, maybe it's my fault.
Exactly.
Maybe it's my fault.
Right.
Which is stark contrast to everything is everybody else's fault today.
Like when David and Jonathan got the covenant, you
Set up a covenant.
Right.
We don't do it out of obligation.
Nope.
We don't do it out of, I got to do this because he did this 3 times now, so I've got to do this now. There's no ledger board, no keeping score. You just do it. You just do it. You just have that covenant. Let's see here. So, and that's one of the other things I want to talk about is the covenant versus contracts. We talked about that. And then Jonathan, as he is saying goodbye, he's saying, remember me. Remember my family. Because I know you're going to be king. I can't control what's happening with my dad. You certainly can't stay here. But I know at some point it's going to come back around and you're going to be the king. So don't forget me. You're my best friend. Please remember our conversation. Remember our friendship. Shake and bake. Don't forget me. So we have the king is still in power. But remember, God has withdrew away from him. So God has withdrawn away from him, but he's still alive. So his life is still there. God could have easily just said, I've already anointed David. Pink, you're done. Get out of here. Why is God allowing this evil man to continue to be in power?
I think because he's going to do his self-end.
Yeah.
He could.
He could.
He could create his own.
Why would God allow an evil man to stay in power as king?
I don't feel like I or we can truly understand God's ways.
No, we can't. That's good. We can't understand God's ways.
It's part of an equation we can never calculate.
Right.
So it's just part of his variables that we'll never know why. But that guy, that jerk Hitler had to exist. I don't know.
But here, let's go back. We're thinking just again, and this is the way we do. We all forget, including me, that we forget that all of this started because they requested there to be a king.
Yes.
If they had just stayed where God was their leader, then none of this would have happened. So God's allowing them to experience the consequences of their choices. And that includes this evil king. Like, not to that extreme, but my kids, I tell them, hey, go to bed, 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 go to bed. Finally, they go to sleep. Well, in the morning, we get up. Let's say 6 o'clock. We're going to go on a camping trip or something. Like, oh, I'm so tired. Well, get up anyway. You chose to stay up late, and the consequence is you have to get up anyway. Now you're tired. And you don't want to be awake, and you're groggy, and you're not rested, and that's a consequence. I have to allow you to feel the consequence so that you can make a better choice the next time. So God's allowing them to experience this evil king. And I hope that they will say, oh, God, we have made a terrible choice. Can we go back? Can we? And so we see David here under the radar. I mean, he's not under the radar. He's winning battles. He's all that stuff. But under the radar as far as anointed king,
Right.
he's already anointed. And at some point, there will become a place where he rises to power,
Sure.
and God's already anointed him, and we know that he becomes a great king
Right.
over Israel. So things don't last forever. There's consequences to our choices. Sometimes bad things happen to us because God's allowing those things to happen to us. David, you don't see David going, well, God, I guess you're just allowing this stuff to happen to me. I guess maybe you just don't care. Maybe you just hate me. Maybe you're just not out there. Maybe you're just, you don't hear David saying that
No.
at all. Now, if you read the Psalms, if you go in here to the Psalms, you'll say, oh, Lord, please remove this great anguish, this great tribulation from my life. You know, he does cry out, but he never curses God. David never curses God. So the question is, what are you going through in this season in your life that you need to be asking, what should I be learning from this thing? Did I sin? Is it possibly on me? Am I in the midst of a sin? Am I drinking, smoking, sleeping around, looking at pornography? Am I doing something wrong that is on me? Or is this just, we live in a fallen world, we have sin all around us, and God's allowing this to happen, so I will continually say, God, this is not my favorite. I don't really like this. I got too many bills. I got too many sicknesses in a row, or I lost my job, or whatever it is. And you need to ask the question, what is it I need to learn from this situation? Jesus actually gives us a great statement. And he says, in this world, you're going to have trouble. But have heart. For I, Jesus, have overcome this world. So he said, Jesus is the one who said that, not Brad, but I just, like as if I was talking. But Jesus said, have heart. I've already got it taken care of. I've dealt with it. That doesn't mean that I'm removing all the bad things that happen. When he brought them out of Egypt, he didn't take them on a paved road with smooth sailing straight to the foot of Mount Sinai. He took them to the edge of the water. Said, "Hey, you're trapped. What are you going to do?" "Oh, I'm going to do a miracle for you." And he took them to the next place. "Oh no, you don't have any water." "Okay, boom, there's a water out of a rock." "Oh no, okay, boom, here's some manna and quail." "Oh no." So he allows us to get to a place in Henry Blackaby, in a book called Experiencing God. Great book if you haven't read it. I got a copy at the house, and he says you come to a crisis of belief. I'll do my best to draw his little diagram on here for you. David multiple times has really not expressed that he has a crisis of his belief. I don't think. But I think coming up he's going to, because it's about to get even rougher, right? I said it's escalating. It's still escalating, right? So what happens is, this is me and you here. And this is God's plan, God's will, his work, God's work, whatever you want to call it. God's moving among us, right? And so you get to a place here, and God says, "Bradford, do you want to come with me in this ministry?"
Yes, sir.
It means sacrifice. It means you got to give yourself. So he says, "Hey, are you going to come with me in this ministry?" And so you get to point one, and he says, "What's the question? Are you going to do this or not?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And he's like, "Are you sure? Because I'm going to make it hard. I'm going to put some pressure on you. Are you sure you're okay with that?" And you're like, "Oh man, and yeah, I guess so." And then when you say yes, then he says, Here then is the blessing for being faithful in that. Yeah, come join me in my work. But if for some reason you get through here and you get to step 2 and he allows that thing to press on you, and you don't finish through with in full faith with him, then he'll take you back to here, and he'll allow you to go through it again. He'll continue to allow you to go through those crises of belief. He wants to invite you. The other way I like to draw it is like this. And you guys know I like illustrations and whatever. So,
Hey, we love it. We love it. You brought a map. We didn't get to see it all the way out. Really?
Oh, you didn't see my map. I didn't draw my map last week. I did draw the hill this week for you.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, let me erase this thing. And this marker is like really wet. It's really hard to erase. I think this is leaning down now. Whatever, close enough. All right. So the other way I like to talk about it is this. You know those power lines that look like this?
Yeah.
That are really, really tall. And when you walk underneath them, you can hear the bzzz. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about, Rick?
Yeah.
Big power lines. And you know that they've got the power running like this. Whoa. Oh, that's what happened. One of the poles came out. Give me a second here. All right. So you got the power. You got three-phase power, which means I got three pairs of lines going through there, whatever. So here's the deal. This is God's work, his ministry, his will, his plan. Is there anything you can do to stop the electricity going through here? No. But let's say that this is Mike down here, or this is Rick, or anybody else. And he says, I'm going to invite you to come participate in my ministry. I'm going to invite you to come plan in my plan. I'm going to invite you to come in my work. That's the same as him dropping a wire here and a wire here. What happens to that person? They get electrocuted. Why are they electrocuted?
Because they're plugged in.
What's happening to their body, though?
It's being
Literally, what's happening... That's right. What's happening is the power is running through here, and your feet are on the ground, right? And so it's literally the power is flowing through you.
Yeah, right on, yeah.
The question is, did I do anything for that power? If you're standing underneath one of these things, are you doing anything to get that power to run through there? No, you're not doing anything. And if you were able to get a cable and touch both sides there and get electrocuted, is it something that you've done to create the power flowing through those lines? No, you're receiving that power. Yeah. You're receiving that power, and it's flowing through you, but there's nothing that you do to make that power happen. And so that's God inviting us. It may be shocking. It may be hard. It may be difficult. And in the real world, you're going to die. But in God's example here of working, he invites us. It has nothing to do with our power. Has nothing to do with my teaching. It has nothing to do with the music that we sing or what translation of the Bible that you read. It has everything to do with him and his work. He will see it through regardless of what you do. He will make his things happen regardless of how many times you go to church. He will make his stuff happen, what he wants to make happen, regardless of whether you're in sin or not. But when you're out of sin and you're open and you're welcome to being included into what he's doing, he will allow you to be utilized as a part of his plan. Doesn't need you, but he will allow it to happen. Does that make sense? So we see David is allowing himself to be shocked a little bit right now. If you want to look at it that way. He's allowing himself to get, I don't know what's happening, God. It's not super fun. But God is working his plan to redeem the people of Israel from a terrible, selfish king into a serving king by inviting and utilizing David through his ministry work. So the question again, is there anything that I'm doing that is preventing me from being used by God to interact with God, to be a part of his plan or part of his wills. There's something, and it may not be me. It may just be, there's other stuff happening. I just happen to be in the way, right? I just happen to be holding the two wires. But am I open to being used by God for his purposes, not mine? Sometimes it's very fun. Sometimes it's scary, and it's not so fun. When you think about there was like 6 people or 8 people, and the husbands flew into this remote village in South America, and they went to go talk to these tribesmen, and the tribesmen killed them and ate them.
Oh, you mean like the uncontacted tribes?
Mm-hmm.
It's like illegal to talk to them anyway, I think, right?
Well, in North Sentinel Island, it's illegal.
Well, there's like Amazon tribes. You're not
Right.
allowed to mess with them because they're uncontacted. They want to leave them that way.
But there was a tribe, and there's a book. I can send you the book, but I read it, and Through the Gates of Splendor, and the Elizabeth Elliott's the wife, and so the husbands all flew in the airplane, landed on the beach of the river. They get out, they start trying to tell them about Jesus in whatever way that they possibly can. They don't speak that language.
Yeah.
The guys kill them and eat them. The wives, I think 2 or 3 years later, or maybe as long as 10 years, I can't remember the story. It's been a year since I read the story. They go to the village and say, hey, that guy that you killed and you ate, that was my husband, but I'm still here to talk to you about Jesus. Talk about being part of the some of them became Christians. Some of them became followers of Jesus. No.
Because, I mean, nothing against these ladies or against Jesus, but your husbands got eaten and they went to hang out too?
Yep. Yep. They weren't afraid of the consequences. They wanted to be used.
They were true with it.
They wanted to be used, whatever that looked like.
But you're always carrying a sign that says, give me a sign.
Give me a sign.
God needs you. All he knows you're ready.
Well, same thing with you.
Yep.
You got to do that.
We both have a sign.
Got the sign. Here I am.
Yes, sir.
Use me. Send me.
No.
You never know. Isaiah 6:8. That's my life verse. If you don't know Isaiah 6:8, in a vision, Isaiah is in the throne room of God, and he sees the angels, and he's like, oh, and he falls down on his face, and he says, I'm not worthy to be here. You don't know what I've done. He goes, yeah, I do. And he said, I'm not worthy to do anything. He goes, yeah, you are. And he takes the tongs and he cleanses Isaiah. Isaiah didn't do anything himself, but God cleanses Isaiah. And then he says, who's going to go and preach this message of cleansing to the people? And Isaiah stands up and says, here I am. Send me. Send me. So that's my verse.
That's great. That's a great tattoo.
Yeah, it would be. All right, so that's chapter 20. We'll get into 21, and we start seeing that David is going to be on the run now for a number of chapters. He's going to be on the run now, and we're going to see him visit his family and try to protect them. He's going to go hide in the caves. We got all sorts of stuff. David's now on the run. Now it becomes a full-length motion picture movie of David being chased.
From becoming the king?
He's running from being killed by the king.
Oh, yes, right on, exactly.
Yeah. So we will get into 1 Samuel chapter 21 next time.
That's terrible. Have to run.